What up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Matty P here with another episode of Steelers Touch Down Under. Steelers got the win again at home against the New York Giants to go 6-2 on the season, 26-18. They got the victory. So, how did they get the victory? Well, obviously, they won the football game. They scored 26 points. They scored 8 more points than the Giants. A lot to unpack there. And there'll be a lot you hear about in the next. You're already hearing about, on morning radio, depending on what time this goes out in America. You're hearing a lot of different stuff. You're going to hear it unpacked in the Mike Tomlin press conferences and all that sort of stuff. Before the game, I had a video, if you missed it, out there on the 5 keys to victory. These are the 5 keys to victory. Hold the ball. Dominate time possession. 45% better on third down. Keep Russ up. Receiver diversity. And shut down the run. Particularly because the New York Giants had a pretty good defense, went into the game with 31 sacks, NFL leading, right? They all my things. So I thought before we go into how the Steelers played in that game, I did kind of think it would be interesting to actually have a look at what did they deliver on the 5 keys to victory that I had up, right? So let's have a look at it. When we look at it, let's go hold the ball first. Time possession, I said that the Steelers needed to dominate time possession there. The week before, I'd said they need 35 minutes. They finished at 32 and a bit minutes. This week, they didn't dominate time possession. It was pretty 50-50, but it does fall in favor of the New York Giants, right? So that's where it is. Pittsburgh Steelers didn't even have 50% there. I then said 45% or better on third down. The Steelers had 6 from 13, which is 46.13%. I think it is, but it's definitely over 46% when we start getting into the decimal places. They hit that mark, right? And it's pretty close to 50%. That is very helpful when you're sustaining drives. So not bad there from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then we had keep Russ upright. I talked about that a lot when I did the preview show, particularly because I sort of talked about letting the New York Giants defense get on a roll, that 31 sacks. New offensive line, we did see a couple penalties there, the false start on McCollum. But, the Steelers allowed 4 sacks for 19 yards. So the yardage isn't too bad across 4 sacks, an average of 5 yards. But I will say that the 4 sacks, I would have rather kept this to 2 or 3. That being said, New York obviously came into the game league leader in 31 sacks. That's a huge amount before you're halfway through the season. So the Steelers did well in the context of the opposition that they were playing, but against other teams, these 4 sacks would probably be less acceptable from my perspective. So I don't really think they fully achieved that. So right now, let's say they're 1.5 out of 3 on the 5 keys to victory. Then I talked about receiver diversity. That's right, receiver diversity. I talked about making sure the ball gets spread around to different players and how important that would be. Now, this was kind of interesting. So if you look at the from the targets in this game, it's not letting me. Hang on, let me pull that up. We'll just go to the box score. Let's do it this way. Now, there was 20 receptions off 28 targets. 4 for Beacons, 4 for Van Jefferson, 3 for Austin, 1 for Washington, 2 for Pat Freiermuth. Oh, these are the receptions, sorry. Yep. 2 for Pat Freiermuth, 3 for Najee Harris, 2 for Jalen Warren, 1 for Miko Pruitt. So we're talking there about 20 passes caught from 8 different receivers. That's a bit of diversity. Talk about yardage as well. 3 players over 50 yards, 2 players over 60 yards, not bad. The average yards is pretty good. Pickens is just having an amazing career from an average yards per reception perspective. That's pretty incredible. Only 1 receiving TD. Calvin Austin bagged 2 TDs. Great game from him. As I said, 27 targets. Pretty cool there. So when you look at that, I actually think it was 28. I don't know why they've got that there. I've seen 28 on Pro Football Reference. But, when you've got 2 guys getting 4 receptions off 5 targets, Calvin Austin 3 from 4, we're talking 75 and 80% catch percentages there. Pat Freiermuth 100%, Najee Harris 75%. And Jalen Warren obviously had the worst reception rate of the game from guys that did catch a pass. at like 2 out of 3, but Scotty Miller had 2 targets, caught none. So obviously that is technically a worse percent because it's 0, but of the guys that caught passes, Jalen Warren wins there. So you can basically say that from a receiver diversity perspective, the Steelers did hit that mark. You can't ask for more diverse than that, really, in terms of the lineup that they've got. So we're going to give them 2.5 out of 4. What about shut down the run? That was kind of interesting. Now, obviously, the New York Giants one-time possession. You can usually be safely assumed that there's a bit more rush yardage there. That would be why. And quite honestly, they had more rush yards than the Steelers. Sorry, they didn't have more yards. Their top player went for more yardage than the Steelers in terms of Tyrone Tracy. But when you looked at it overall, the Steelers did have a little bit more yardage. I did say shut down Devin Singletary. They did that. So that was kind of cool. But the Steelers, when you talk about the running backs, they're 2 versus the Giants 2. The Steelers had 4 more yards. There was a touchdown off that as well. I didn't think that the Steelers shut this down enough. I wanted to see sort of under 100 yards. That would have been that. That would have been a really good performance, I think. But the Steelers also wanted to shut down the pass as much as they could from Daniel Jones. The Giants played some good football. You can definitely, they're not like for a 2-6 team. They're better than a lot of other 2-6 teams out there in the league. They're a lot better than their cross stadium rivals in the Jets. I think they're better than the Titans. Who obviously both play in the AFC compared to the Giants in the NFC. But I don't think the Steelers did this. And so really even though the Steelers got the win, I'm not surprised to see a closer score because when I look at the keys to victory, they only got 2.5 out of the 5 that we put down there. So again, I don't think it was deeply crazy that they got the win. However, I did want to, it wasn't clear that they were going to fully get the win. I do want to give a couple of shout outs though. That being said, to some pretty cool performances. Joey Porter Jr. had 8 tackles. Patrick Queen had 8 tackles. He was back there. Still not producing things from a pass defense, tackle for a loss, quarterback hits, game in, game out, but played well. TJ Watt, incredible. 2 sacks, 2 tackles for a loss, was held, forced a fumble. I saw he had 22 sacks in his career where he forced a fumble. That is insane. Insane. That means more than every 1 in 6 sacks he does, where he's a guys have broken 100, results in a forced fumble. It is incredible what that alien is doing. Deshaun Elliott continues to have a strong season. 1 pass defense, and then he also had 5 solo tackles, 7 total tackles. Cam Hayward was in there getting a pass defense, 2 quarterback hits. Just unlucky he didn't get a tackle for a loss or a sack. But he had a good game last week there. 6 total tackles. Beanie Bishop was backed up his 2 interception performance with 5 total tackles, a pass defense, according to ESPN. Minka was in the mix. Dante Jackson was in the mix. Alex Highsmith also had 2 sacks and 2 tackles for a loss. Pretty cool performance there. Terrell Edmonds in the mix. Good to see him. Same as Benton. I thought Benham might have had a stronger game, but the outside linebackers were back and firing, and they're the honourable or the good mentions out of that one as well. So that was pretty cool. Did I miss Beanie Bishop for the interception? I must have. My bad. But because they don't record them up the top here. My bad. He backed it up again with the interception. My absolute bad there. But anyway, and then Chris Boswell obviously doesn't miss, or rarely misses, I should say, touch wood. So he didn't miss in this game, 14 out of 26 points. He's having a stellar season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So overall, good win for the Steelers going into the bye. They're 6-2 before they get into the homeward stretch. And so, you've got to be pretty happy with that as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. You can't ask for more than that. 6-2 with everything they've done. They've had some games away. They've had an interesting schedule to start out the season. And so now we can look forward to what's to come after the bye. Obviously, they're playing at Washington. Then they go Baltimore at home. Then they've got Cleveland at Cleveland. Then they're at Cincy as well. So if you go in and you win, the Washington team could be 7-2 when they play them the Washington Commanders. But if let's say they win that game and they're 7-2, and they beat Baltimore at home, suddenly they're 8-2. You're in a pretty good nick. But you've only played one division game, and that's the difference. But if you can like get the win in Cleveland or in Cincy, and you win your Baltimore game, we're off and racing. We do need to win at least 3, I think, division games. If and definitely if we can win 4, honestly, I think we get to 12 wins through this. What's to come, and that's going to be enough to probably. If you don't get the North because you're splitting with another 12-win team, you're going to be you're going to be coming pretty darn close. So I'm really excited. I actually think the Steelers can win the North. I think 12 games in the AFC as well, 12 to 13, will get you your home field advantage too. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see what the Steelers can do. But I'm really, really excited. At 6-2, I think it's fantastic. There's still a lot to work on, but there's a lot of guys injured. They'll be better for the week off, and then we'll get to see. So with that, let me know in the comments, what did you think of the win? Where's the need of improvement happen? What do I need to focus on through the bye week? Yes, some of that might even be player acquisition. But I'm Matty P. As always, go Steelers.